The sun was setting when Eli stood outside the spaceport, holding a small welcome sign that said Exchange Program Host. His heart beat faster every second. He had never hosted an alien before. The government had invited one student from each friendly world to live with a human family, to learn about Earth's daily life. And somehow Eli, a simple engineer, had been chosen. The shuttle door opened with a hiss. A tall figure stepped out, wrapped in a long silver cloak that shimmered under the light. When she pulled down her hood, Eli froze. She was young, maybe his age, with smooth blue skin that seemed to glow softly. Her silver eyes looked curious but nervous. This was Zira from the planet Valora. She looked around, blinking fast as if the air itself felt strange. "Is this Earth?" she asked softly. Eli smiled and nodded. "Yeah, welcome home. Well, your second home, I guess." Zira tilted her head, confused by the phrase. She looked at the cars flying past, the sound of people laughing and the smell of food in the air. "Everything is so alive," she whispered. They drove to Eli's small apartment in the city. During the ride, she kept touching everything: the seatbelt, the window buttons, the dashboard lights. Each time her reaction was full of wonder. "It moves when I press it." "Your machines listen," she said with wide eyes. Eli laughed. "Yeah, we're pretty good at making noisy things that move." When they reached his apartment, he carried her small travel bag inside. Zira stood at the door for a moment, unsure how to open it until Eli pressed the handle. She gasped as it swung in easily. "You have magic doors too?" she asked seriously. "It's not magic," he said, smiling. "Just hinges." The inside of the apartment was simple. Small couch, kitchen, 2 rooms, and a bathroom. Zira looked around like a tourist in a new world. Her eyes glowed faintly, adjusting to the indoor light. "It feels warm," she said, touching the wall. "That's the heater," Eli explained. "You'll like it at night." "Gets pretty cold here," she nodded, but still looked uneasy. The human world was full of sounds she couldn't understand. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, the faint music from a neighbor's radio. Every little thing seemed to make her flinch. Eli tried to make her comfortable. He cooked her a simple meal, vegetables and rice. She poked it with a fork, then sniffed it carefully. "It smells alive," she said. "Is it safe?" Eli laughed again. "I promise. It's just dinner." After eating, she seemed more relaxed. They talked about her world, about the red deserts of Valora and the glowing plants that grew only under moonlight. Her people didn't use much machinery. Everything there was soft, quiet, and natural. As night came, Eli showed her to her room. "If you need anything, I'm right across the hall," he said kindly. She nodded. "Thank you, Eli of Earth. Your kindness will be remembered." He smiled at her serious tone, then went to bed. For the first time, his home felt different, like another world had stepped into it. But around midnight, a scream shattered the silence. Eli jumped up, heart racing. "Zira?" He ran toward her room. The sound came from the bathroom. When he pushed open the door, he saw her standing on the sink, clutching a towel like a weapon. Her silver eyes were wide with fear. "What happened?" Eli asked. She pointed at the toilet, shaking. "It growled at me." Eli blinked, confused. "You mean the toilet?" "It moved. It made a roar and swallowed water," she shouted, her voice trembling. "It's alive." Eli tried not to laugh but couldn't help it. No, it's not alive. It's supposed to do that." Zira looked at him as if he had lost his mind. "You keep a creature that eats water in your home?" "It's called flushing," he said, still trying to calm her down. "It's just how we clean it." She didn't look convinced. "It spins. It screams. It has a mouth." Eli leaned over and pressed the flush handle again to show her. The toilet gurgled loudly, swirling the water. Zira jumped back, yelping again. "See? It's fine," Eli said, laughing gently. "It's just plumbing, pipes, water pressure. No monsters." But then, as if mocking him, the toilet made a deep gurgling sound on its own. Both of them froze. Zira gasped. "It's angry," she whispered. "It heard you." Eli stepped back slowly, half smiling, half nervous. "Okay, maybe it's a little weird tonight." Zira ran past him, hiding behind the door. "I will not go near that thing again," she said firmly. Eli rubbed his head and sighed. "Great. My guest thinks the toilet is alive." He looked at the bathroom again. The faint sound of dripping echoed in the quiet night. For a second, even Eli felt a little chill. The alien girl hid behind the couch, wrapping herself in a blanket, muttering softly, "Your world is full of monsters that hide in water." Eli smiled helplessly. "Welcome to Earth, Zyra." Outside, the city lights flickered and the hum of machines filled the air. But inside that small apartment, one human and one alien were about to start the strangest friendship in the galaxy. Born from fear, laughter, and one very misunderstood toilet. The morning sunlight slipped through the curtains, lighting up Eli's small apartment, but the mood was anything but calm. Zyra sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket like a soldier after battle. Her silver eyes darted toward the bathroom door every few seconds as if the water beast might attack again. Eli stood near the kitchen, sipping coffee, trying not to laugh. "Zyra, it's not alive," he said for the 5th time that morning. She frowned. "You say that, yet it moved." It screamed. It swirled the water like a hungry vortex. "Why do humans build things that roar when they eat?" Eli sighed, setting down his mug. "It doesn't eat. It just flushes away. Waste." Zyra blinked, not understanding. "Waste? You feed it something?" That was too much. Eli laughed so hard that he nearly spilled his coffee. No, Zyra, it's not a pet. It's plumbing. It cleans, that's all." But Zyra crossed her arms. "Then why does it hide its mouth in that bowl? Why does it wait until you turn your back to growl again?" Eli stopped laughing. She wasn't joking. The fear in her eyes was real, deep, almost childlike. To her, this world must truly feel full of strange, moving monsters. "Okay," he said gently. "I'll show you. You'll see it's not dangerous." She hesitated, but followed him to the bathroom door, clutching the edge of her blanket like a shield. Eli lifted the toilet lid. Zyra gasped and took 2 steps back. "It opens its mouth." "I knew it." "Relax," he said, smiling. "It's just where the water sits." He pressed the flush handle and the water began to swirl with its usual loud rush. Zyra screamed and jumped behind the wall. "Stop it! Stop it! It's angry again!" she cried. Eli turned off the flush, trying to explain through her panic. "It's just moving water through pipes. The sound is normal. It's not alive." She peeked out slowly, still shaking. "Your machines breathe. They roar, they bite. My home is quiet. Nothing moves unless life is inside it." That line hit him harder than he expected. To humans, machines were ordinary, helpful tools. But to someone like Zyra, who came from a world of natural harmony, human inventions must seem monstrous. He decided to change the subject. "You need breakfast. Let's eat something that doesn't make noise." She followed him to the table, still glancing back at the bathroom. Every distant gurgle from the pipes made her flinch. When Eli served her a plate of pancakes, she studied them carefully, sniffing them like a scientist.
"They are flat."
"And smell happy," she said softly, taking a small bite. Eli smiled. "See? Not everything here is scary." After breakfast, he gave her a small tour of the apartment to help her understand human items. The refrigerator amazed her. The stove confused her, and the washing machine downright terrified her when it started spinning. "It's shaking," she yelled, hiding behind the chair. "Why is it angry?" "It's cleaning clothes," Eli explained between laughs. "You really don't like things that move, do you?" Zyra puffed her cheeks and said proudly, "On Valora, things stay still. The wind moves gently, not like this. Everything here is noisy and unpredictable." Eli chuckled, but inside he felt sympathy. She wasn't just afraid, she was overwhelmed. Her world must have been silent and peaceful, without flashing lights, spinning drums, or roaring toilets. Later in the day, Eli had to go out for a short errand. "You'll be fine for a few minutes," he said kindly. "Don't worry. Just don't touch anything, okay?" Zyra nodded bravely, though her eyes betrayed her worry. When Eli left, the apartment was quiet. She sat still, studying the furniture, trying to understand why humans surrounded themselves with so many moving things. Then, a faint gurgle came from the bathroom. Her eyes widened. She stood up slowly, heart pounding, and walked toward the sound. The toilet gurgled again, a deep, wet rumble. She gasped and grabbed a mop like a weapon. You stay quiet," she whispered, pointing it like a sword. The toilet gave one more loud flush, automatic this time because of the sensor Eli had installed. Zyra screamed and swung the mop. Water splashed everywhere. "Evil bowl of water! Stay away!" When Eli returned minutes later, the bathroom was soaked and Zyra stood in the middle of the chaos, trembling but victorious. "I fought it," she said breathlessly. "It attacked first." Eli stared at the mess, water dripping from the ceiling, the mop broken in half and the toilet still quietly refilling itself. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Zira, he said slowly. It wasn't attacking you. It has sensors. It flushes automatically. She blinked, confused. It has senses? It can see me, he groaned. That's not what I meant. Her expression turned serious. So it's a spy too? Eli gave up. He sat on the floor laughing so hard his stomach hurt. Zyra frowned but soon laughed too, though she didn't understand why. That night before bed she said softly, "Your world scares me, Eli. Everything is alive but not alive." "I don't know what to trust," Eli smiled gently. "Then trust me. I'll teach you what's safe." She nodded, her voice quiet. "Promise?" "I promise," he said. But when the toilet flushed again on its timer, she jumped under the blanket and whispered, "It's watching." Eli couldn't help smiling in the dark. He didn't know it yet, but this strange fear would be the start of a friendship, and maybe something more that neither human nor alien would ever forget. The next morning began with the sound of cautious footsteps. Zyra peeked out of her room, scanning the hallway like a soldier checking for traps. The bathroom door stood open, quiet and harmless. Still, she kept her distance, clutching a towel as if it could protect her from the water beast. Eli was already in the kitchen making breakfast. "Good morning, brave warrior," he teased, smiling as he flipped a pancake. Zyra frowned. "Warrior? I am a researcher, not a fighter," he chuckled. "After what you did to my bathroom last night, I'd say you're both." Her cheeks turned a faint shade of violet, the alien version of blushing. "It attacked first," she whispered, glaring toward the bathroom. "I defended my honor." Eli laughed so hard that he had to hold the counter. I don't think anyone's ever said that about a toilet before. But he quickly realized something. If Zira wanted to survive on Earth, she needed to learn human ways. Not just for her comfort, but to prove she could adapt. The whole exchange program depended on it, so after breakfast he decided to start training. He began with simple things. "Okay, lesson 1, he said, handing her a remote control. "This is a TV remote. You press this button and the screen turns on." Zyra stared at it like it was a weapon. "It controls light? Kind of. It controls what you see on the screen." She pressed the button and the TV blared to life with a loud ad about toothpaste. Zyra jumped back and threw the remote. "It shouted at me," she cried. Eli caught it midair, laughing again. "That's just an ad. It's not alive either." Zyra frowned deeply. "Your world shouts too much." By the end of the morning, she had met several new monsters. The microwave beeped, the blender roared, and the washing machine rumbled like thunder. She named each one, Box of Beeps, Loud World Demon, and Spinning Drum of Doom. Eli couldn't stop laughing. "You're naming my appliances now? It's easier to remember who's dangerous," she said seriously. But as funny as it was, Eli started to see the world through her eyes. Every simple human invention, the ones he never thought twice about, seemed terrifying to someone who had never known machines. On Valora, everything was natural and silent. Their homes were built from living trees, their lights from glowing moss, their food cooked by the planet's warmth itself. He sighed softly, watching her flinch when the coffee maker clicked. "Zira," he said gently, "you don't have to be scared. You'll get used to it." She looked up at him with wide eyes. "To humans, like all this noise?" Eli thought about it. "We don't notice it anymore. Maybe we got used to chaos." Zyra tilted her head. "Chaos," she repeated slowly, as if tasting the word. "Your species lives inside storms and calls it normal." That line made Eli laugh, but it also made him think. To help her learn faster, he made a training chart. Each time she successfully used a new device without panicking, she'd get a sticker. Zyra didn't understand why stickers mattered, but she accepted the challenge. Her first mission was simple, turning on the lamp. She pressed the switch carefully. The light came on. She gasped and clapped her hands. "It obeyed me. I have control." Eli grinned. "See? Easy." He handed her a star-shaped sticker. She held it proudly, sticking it on her sleeve. "I am victorious," she said. As hours passed, she began to relax. She learned how to use the sink, how to microwave food, and how to adjust the air conditioner. Each success made her braver. Eli couldn't help but feel proud. By afternoon, he decided to tackle the big challenge, the toilet. Zira froze. "No, not that thing." It remembers me. Eli smiled softly. You can't avoid it forever. Trust me, it's not evil. Look, just press this and it flushes. That's all. She hesitated, trembling slightly. But Eli stood beside her, patient and calm. Finally, she reached out and pressed the handle. The water swirled with its usual roar. Zaira flinched but didn't scream this time. Eli clapped. You did it, see? No monsters. Her eyes widened in surprise. It obeyed. And did not bite. Exactly, he said proudly. She took a step closer, peering into the bowl. It still looks suspicious. Eli laughed again, shaking his head. You're making progress. That night she sat near the window watching the glowing city lights. Eli, she said softly, your world is strange but beautiful too. Every light, it's like a star trapped on the ground. He smiled. That's a nice way to see it. She turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the neon glow. Do all humans live like this, surrounded by things that move, hum, and shine? Pretty much, he said. We made our world loud because silence scares us. Zira looked thoughtful. On Valora, silence is peace. Here it feels like danger is always nearby. Eli looked at her quietly. Maybe danger isn't in the noise, it's in not understanding it. Their eyes met for a long moment. A quiet spark of connection between two very different worlds. Then, suddenly a sound erupted from the bathroom. Flush. Zaira jumped again, wrapping herself in her blanket. It lives still. Eli groaned, laughing. I forgot to turn off the auto flush. Zira frowned. You call that progress? He smiled warmly. We'll call it step 2. As the night deepened, Zira fell asleep on the couch, holding her sticker-covered sleeve proudly. Eli watched her for a moment, smiling softly. She was learning, slowly, awkwardly, but bravely. Tomorrow, he promised himself, she'd conquer something new. But tonight he made sure the bathroom door stayed closed, just in case. By the next morning, Eli was certain that Zira had made progress. She was no longer afraid of light switches or the TV remote, and she even greeted the microwave politely before using it. It was adorable and strange at the same time. But today was different. Eli had to take her outside for the first time to visit his workplace. He worked at TechCore Labs, a research facility filled with machines, holograms, and advanced robotics. If Zira was to understand humans better, she needed to see how Earth's technology truly worked. When he told her the plan, her face turned pale blue. You mean, more machines? Bigger ones? Eli nodded gently. Yes, but don't worry. They won't hurt you. You'll be safe with me. She crossed her arms and muttered, That's what you said about the water beast. He laughed softly. Fair point, but trust me on this. They rode the hoverbus to the lab and Zira's curiosity began to rise again. She pressed her hands against the window, amazed at the speeding vehicles, glowing towers, and sky bridges full of humans walking in the air. Your world moves so much, she whispered. Even the ground hums. That's just the engine, Eli said. She frowned. Engines hum like living creatures. Do they get tired? He smiled. Only when humans forget to fix them. When they reached the lab, Zaira hesitated at the door. It opened automatically with a soft whoosh. She jumped. It breathes too? It's motion sensors, Eli explained patiently. It sees movement. She stepped inside carefully, eyes wide. The lab was huge. Rows of glowing screens, robotic arms moving parts, tubes hissing with steam, and a central reactor humming gently. Scientists in white coats moved around, typing, talking, calibrating. Zira froze. This place, it's alive. Eli smiled proudly. In a way, yes. Everything here works together like one big brain. She nodded slowly, trying to understand, but her hand trembled as she walked past a table of small drones. When one buzzed softly, she squeaked and hid behind Eli. The scientist chuckled quietly. It's okay, Zira, Eli said softly. They're just machines. They help us work faster. A kind female scientist approached, smiling warmly. You must be the Veleran student. I'm Dr. Rena. Don't worry, we won't let the robots bite. Zaira blinked. They bite. Eli sighed. She's joking, Zira. But the tension didn't go away. As they toured the lab, Zira tried her best to look brave, but her eyes kept darting around, watching every blinking light and spinning fan. The sound of machinery echoed everywhere like a living heartbeat. When they reached Eli's workstation, he proudly showed her his latest project, a small prototype drone designed to clean solar panels in space. It hovered quietly with soft blue lights. Zyra looked at it carefully. "It's peaceful," she said, relaxing a little. Eli smiled. "See? Not all machines are scary." He picked up a controller and demonstrated how it moved. The drone hovered, twisted, and landed smoothly. Zyra's eyes sparkled with amazement. "It obeys your thoughts," she said softly. "Almost," Eli replied with a grin. "Want to try?" She hesitated, then nodded. He guided her hands to the controls. Slowly the drone lifted off the table. Zyra gasped, eyes wide with wonder. "It listens to me." "Exactly," Eli said proudly. "Technology can be a friend if you understand it." Her smile grew. For the first time she didn't seem afraid. But just as Eli turned to talk to Dr. Rena, Zyra accidentally pressed the wrong button. The drone zipped forward, then crashed into a shelf full of test samples. Alarms blared instantly. Red lights flashed. Steam burst from the vents. Everyone shouted. Zyra screamed, ducking under a table. "I broke the hive. It's angry." Eli ran to the console, shutting off the alarm and catching the falling samples before they spilled. "It's okay. Nobody's hurt," he yelled. The chaos settled, but the damage was done. His boss, a stern man named Dr. Collins, stormed in. "Eli, what in the name of science was that?" Eli stood tall. "Just an accident, sir." The student was learning. Dr. Collins looked at Zyra, who was still trembling under the table. "If she can't handle technology, she doesn't belong here. We can't risk another meltdown." Zyra's eyes filled with shame. She whispered softly, "I didn't mean to anger your machines." Eli knelt beside her, his tone calm and kind. "It's not your fault. You didn't anger anything. You just pressed a wrong button. Happens to everyone." Dr. Collins shook his head. "You'd better fix this, Eli. The program's on review now." After the boss left, the lab fell quiet again. Eli helped Zyra to her feet. "Hey, look at me," he said softly. "You did great, okay? You tried. That's what matters." Tears glimmered in her silver eyes. "Your world hates me. I don't belong here." Eli's heart ached. "No, Zyra, you belong here more than you think. You just need time. Machines aren't angry, they're just misunderstood. Like you were." Zyra looked down, silent for a moment. Then she whispered, "I will learn. I will not fail again." Eli smiled and offered his hand. "That's the spirit." As they left the lab, Zyra glanced back at the machines. The red lights had stopped flashing. Everything was calm again. But deep inside she knew she wasn't afraid anymore. She was determined, and for Eli that quiet courage meant more than any experiment could ever prove. The next morning, Eli woke to the sound of quiet humming. It wasn't coming from the machines or the city outside, it was Zyra. She stood in the living room surrounded by notebooks, wires, and half-disassembled gadgets. Her silver eyes sparkled with focus as she carefully touched each object, whispering to herself. Eli rubbed his eyes and smiled. "You've been up all night?" She looked up proudly. "I was studying your devices, Eli of Earth. I understand them now." He laughed softly. "That's great, but maybe start with breakfast next time." She tilted her head. "Breakfast comes after victory." Eli walked over, curious. The room looked like a miniature workshop. His tablet was open with diagrams of kitchen tools. The toaster was half apart, and she'd labeled everything in neat alien symbols. Electric snake for cables, light box for the lamp, and metal stomach for the oven. "Wow," he said. "You're actually learning fast." Zyra smiled, a small proud grin. "Your world is noisy and wild, but it follows rules. I see patterns now. Machines roar, but they do not think. They just move when commanded." "That's exactly right," Eli said, impressed. "You're getting it." Encouraged, he decided to make her learning more fun. "Okay, Professor Zyra," he said playfully. "Time for advanced training." She crossed her arms, trying to look serious. "Advanced training. I accept." He built a little technology obstacle course in the apartment, a kind of safe challenge zone. One corner had a lamp to switch on, another had a microwave to use, and the final boss, the toilet. Zyra stood before the setup, determination in her glowing eyes. "I am ready to face the beasts," Eli smiled. "Let's start easy. Light switch." She pressed it confidently. The lamp glowed. "Victory," she said softly, grinning. "Good," he said. "Now the microwave." She hesitated only for a moment, then pressed the button. The timer beeped, the light flickered, and the small machine hummed. She watched closely but didn't run away this time. When it stopped, she opened the door and smiled. It listened, Eli clapped. Perfect. You're really getting it. Zaira looked almost proud. Then her gaze shifted toward the bathroom, the final challenge. The toilet waited, silent and still. Her smile faded. It watches, she whispered. Eli laughed softly. No, it doesn't. You can do this, Zaira. You're not the same scared alien you were 3 days ago. She straightened her back. Yes, I will not fear a bowl again. He followed her into the bathroom, staying a few feet away to give her space. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the porcelain beast. Then she took a deep breath, reached out and pressed the handle. Flush. Water swirled. Zaira flinched but didn't move. Her fist tightened, but she didn't scream. She stood her ground until the noise ended. When the water stilled, she exhaled. It obeyed. Quietly, Eli smiled proudly. You did it, Zaira. You beat your biggest fear. For the first time, she laughed. A real, warm laugh that filled the whole apartment. I am stronger than your water demon. Eli grinned. That's one way to say it. From that day on, everything changed. Zaira grew braver. She cooked breakfast, used the vacuum cleaner without panic, and even fixed Eli's coffee machine by herself. When Eli came home one evening, he found her sitting on the couch holding a screwdriver like a sword. I have tamed the coffee beast, she declared proudly. He laughed until tears came. You're incredible. Her expression softened. I had a good teacher. Their friendship deepened after that. They talked for hours. About her planet, about Earth, about why humans filled silence with noise. Zaira began to see beauty in the chaos, and Eli began to see peace in her calm way of thinking. But one night, while they were watching a movie together, the power suddenly went out. The entire apartment went dark. Zaira froze. Eli, what happened? It's just a blackout, he said quickly. Happens sometimes. Don't worry. But then the backup generator clicked on with a loud whir. The lights flickered and the toilet flushed on its own. Loud, sudden and echoing through the dark. Zaira screamed, jumping behind the couch. It returns. The beast returns. Eli tried not to laugh as he walked toward the bathroom. No beast, Zaira. Just the auto flush restarting. But before he could finish, another sound came. A deep bubbling from the pipes. Then the shower turned on by itself. Water splashed loudly and Zaira's eyes widened in horror. It calls the others, she cried. Eli quickly shut the valves and reset the circuit. The noises stopped and silence returned. He turned back, dripping wet but smiling. See? No monsters. Zaira peeked out slowly, then burst into nervous laughter. Your home is full of surprises. He smiled back. Yeah, but hey, you didn't faint this time. That's progress, she chuckled softly. Perhaps Earth is testing me. Eli nodded. Maybe. Or maybe it's teaching you that courage isn't about knowing what happens next, it's about facing it anyway. Zaira looked thoughtful, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the soft emergency light. Then I will keep facing it. With you. Eli paused for a moment, his heart skipping a beat. He smiled warmly. Deal. Outside, the lights of the city flickered back on, filling the room with color again. Zaira stood up proudly, brushing off her blanket. She looked at the bathroom door and said confidently, Next time, if it roars again, I will flush first. Eli laughed. Now that's the spirit. In that moment, he knew. She wasn't just surviving Earth anymore. She was learning to live on it. And maybe, just maybe, she was learning to love it too. The next morning, sunlight poured into the apartment, and for once there were no screams, no spills, no explosions. Zaira was calm, peaceful, and confident. She stood by the window, staring at the skyline with her silver eyes, the soft glow of dawn reflecting on her blue skin. Eli walked into the room, yawning. You're up early. No nightmares about the toilet today? She smirked, a new expression she'd learned from watching human movies. The water beast has accepted my rule. It obeys me now. Eli laughed, shaking his head. You've come a long way, Zaira. I'm proud of you. Zaira smiled faintly. I no longer fear your machines, but I still don't understand how you trust them so easily. He sat beside her, looking out at the city. Trust comes from time. The more you see something doesn't hurt you, the more you start believing it won't. That's all. She thought about that quietly, tapping her fingers against the glass. Then maybe it's time I test that trust, she said softly. Later that morning, Eli received a message from Tech Core Labs. The director, Dr. Collins, wanted Zira to return for a final evaluation. If she can handle advanced human tech without panicking, the message read, the program will continue. If not, she'll be sent home. Eli frowned. He knew Zira wasn't ready for another chaotic lab visit, but she needed to prove herself, or the exchange would end. When he told her, she didn't hesitate. I will go, she said firmly. I am not the same frightened girl who screamed at the toilet. He smiled. No, you're definitely not. At the lab, everyone watched as Zira walked through the automatic doors. This time she didn't flinch. The sound of humming machines didn't scare her. It fascinated her. Her eyes traced the glow of plasma tubes, the rotation of cooling fans, the rhythm of moving gears. It was as if the chaos had turned into a song she could finally understand. Dr. Collins approached her, arms folded. Zira of Valora, ready for your final test? She nodded. I am. The test was simple but dangerous. She had to operate a small drone system, 10 hovering spheres that worked together using synchronized code. Her job, guide them through a moving obstacle course. Eli stood behind her, whispering encouragement. You've got this. Just remember what we practiced. Breathe, focus, and don't panic. Zira placed her hands on the control pad. Her fingers trembled for a second, but then steadied. The drones rose into the air, glowing blue. The entire lab fell silent. She began to move them gently, guiding each sphere through the narrow metallic rings. Her eyes tracked every motion, calm and focused. One wrong move could crash them, but she didn't waver. Halfway through, one drone buzzed too close to a sensor and triggered a burst of steam. Zira flinched but didn't scream. She steadied her hands and adjusted the controls. The drones corrected their path and continued. Dr. Collins raised an eyebrow in surprise. Eli's heart swelled with pride. When the last drone passed through the final ring, Zira pressed the stop button. All 10 spheres landed softly in perfect formation. The room erupted in applause. Zira blinked, confused. Did I pass? Eli laughed. You didn't just pass. You nailed it. Even Dr. Collins, who rarely smiled, gave a small nod. Impressive control. I admit I was wrong to doubt her. Zira turned to Eli, her expression soft. Your machines. They listened to me. They obeyed like the wind on my home planet, Eli grinned. See? You just needed to trust them. And yourself. For the rest of the day, Zira toured the lab freely, touching devices she once feared. She spoke with scientists, asked questions, and even gave suggestions about using biological energy instead of fossil power. Everyone was amazed by her perspective. But then near the end of the tour, something unexpected happened. The emergency alarm blared again. The power grid in one section overloaded and the cooling unit started to smoke. The engineers panicked, running to shut it down. Zira looked at Eli. What's happening? System failure, he said, grabbing tools. If it overheats, the reactor will blow. Without thinking, Zira ran toward the danger. Eli shouted after her, but she didn't stop. She reached the console, her fingers flying over the controls. Her alien sense of pattern, so different from human logic, found a rhythm in the chaos. She rerouted the energy flow, pressed the emergency valve, and stabilized the temperature. The alarm stopped. The room went quiet. Everyone stared at her. Dr. Collins stepped forward slowly. What did you just do? Zira looked up, breathing heavily. I listened to the machine. It was crying for balance. Eli's jaw dropped. You just saved the lab. For the first time, Dr. Collins smiled. You didn't just pass the test, Zira. You taught us something. She bowed her head humbly. I only trusted the machine as I trusted Eli. As they walked out of the lab later that evening, the sky glowed golden. Eli glanced at her and said softly, You were incredible back there. Zira smiled. You once told me courage is facing things even when you're scared. I remembered that. Eli grinned. So what are you afraid of now? She looked at him for a long moment, her silver eyes reflecting his. Only losing my teacher, she said softly. Eli's breath caught, but before he could respond, she added with a smile, And maybe you're cooking. He laughed, shaking his head. Fair. I'll try not to burn dinner this time. As they walked home under the orange sky, Zira glanced at the city lights, each one flickering like a heartbeat. For the first time, she didn't see chaos. She saw life. And she finally understood Earth wasn't dangerous. It was just alive, like her. Night had fallen gently over the city, its skyline glowing like a river of stars. Eli's apartment felt calmer than ever before. Zyra sat cross-legged on the couch, staring at a cup of tea as if she were reading its secrets. The once frightened alien girl, who had once screamed at a flushing sound, now looked peaceful, almost human in her calm. Eli watched her quietly from the kitchen. "You know," he said with a grin, "you're a completely different person now. A few weeks ago you thought the toaster was planning your death." Zyra laughed softly, her silvery voice filling the air. "And now I have mastered your terrifying kitchen beasts. Even the coffee one bows before me." Eli chuckled. "You should write a book, How I Survived Earth's Appliances." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I will. But I still don't understand one thing. Why do humans trust machines so much? They act on their own, they move without soul." He leaned against the counter, thinking, "Because we built them to help us, not replace us. They're loud and strange, sure, but they make life easier. Kind of like friends who don't talk." Zyra nodded slowly. "Then maybe it is time I make peace with your oldest friend." Eli frowned, half confused. "Wait, what do you mean?" She stood up proudly. "The water beast," Eli blinked. "You mean the toilet again?" Zyra nodded seriously. "It is time for the final step. I must face it fully, not as an enemy, but as a friend." He couldn't help laughing. "Okay, sure. Go ahead, Ambassador of Porcelain." Zyra disappeared into the bathroom. Eli followed her, curious but slightly nervous. The door was half open and he could hear her talking softly. "Hello, water creature. We have met before, but I come now in peace." Eli covered his mouth to hide his laughter. She crouched beside it, inspecting it like a scientist. "You are not evil. You only move when commanded. You clean, you make noise, you swallow, but you do not hurt." Eli smiled. "See, you're figuring it out," but Zyra shook her head. "Still, I wish to understand its language." He frowned. "Its language? I want to know why it growls. What does it say when it swirls?" She said seriously. "You humans listen to machines through numbers. I can listen through sound." Before Eli could stop her, Zyra placed a small silver disc, a translator module from her homeworld, on the toilet tank. The disc blinked, scanning vibrations. The air buzzed softly and a robotic voice suddenly echoed, "Hello, user. Ready to flush?" Zyra froze. Eli's jaw dropped. She gasped, stepping back. "It spoke." Eli burst into laughter so loud it echoed through the apartment. "Oh no, you really gave the toilet a voice." The translator continued cheerfully. "Please maintain safe distance. Flushing in 3, 2. Zyra yelped, jumping behind Eli as the water whooshed loudly. She peeked out, trembling. "It counts before it attacks now." Eli was laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "Zyra, that's not attacking, it's just doing what it's told." She frowned, glaring at the translator disc. "You noisy bull spirit, you will not scare me again." She stomped forward and pressed the flush herself. The toilet whooshed again and the voice calmly said, "Acknowledged, brave user." "Well done," Zyra blinked, confused. "It praised me?" Eli leaned on the doorway, still grinning. "See? Even the toilet thinks you're brave now." For a moment, Zyra stared at the swirling water, and then she started laughing. A bright, musical laugh that filled the entire apartment with warmth. "You win, water beast. You and I shall live in peace." Eli joined her laughter. "That's the most beautiful peace treaty in human history." Afterward, Zyra removed the translator disc and sat on the floor, wiping tears of laughter. "Eli," she said softly, "your world is still strange, but I think I finally understand it." He smiled gently. "Yeah, what did you figure out?" "That humans create chaos so they can learn to control it," she said. "You make noise so you can find calm inside it. You build monsters so you can tame them." Eli nodded slowly, impressed. "That's actually very wise." Zyra looked up at him, her expression softening. "And you, thank you for not giving up on me. When I was scared, you stayed." He sat beside her. "You were worth staying for." They sat there quietly, listening to the faint hum of the city through the window. For a long while, neither spoke. It wasn't awkward, it was peaceful, the kind of silence that didn't need to be filled. Then, out of nowhere, the toilet's voice said again, "Congratulations, user." Friendship established, Zyra burst out laughing once more. "Even your machines have humor." Eli groaned, shaking his head. "That's it. I'm uninstalling the translator." But Zira smiled mischievously. No, let it stay. It makes me feel at home. He raised an eyebrow. At home, really? She nodded. On Valora, the winds whisper to us. Here, even your machines speak. Maybe your world isn't so different from mine after all. Eli smiled softly. Then maybe that's what humanity's greatest gift is. Not technology, but the way we make everything around us come alive. Zira looked at him for a moment, then said quietly, and now, it feels alive to me too. As they stood together under the warm lights, Zira turned to the bathroom one last time. Good night, water friend, she said with a grin. The toilet hummed. Good night, user, Eli groaned. Great. Now I live with 2 aliens. Zira laughed, her voice echoing through the cozy apartment. And in that laughter, filled with warmth, peace, and the memory of every scream that had come before, Eli realized something profound. Human or alien, fear or laughter, it didn't matter. What mattered was that somewhere between chaos and understanding, between machines and emotions, they had built something rare. A friendship that could survive any world, even one with talking toilets.